Hello everyone, we are CyberChase and we will be explaining our assessment of the efficacy of our insider threat program. In order to do so, we correspond it with the NIST framework. We hope that you enjoy our video.
Thanks, Olivia. The Identify section of our insider threat program is average when compared to the NIST framework. The perfect program includes classifying assets by levels of significance, managing regulatory compliance, and assessing threats of your particular business environment. There's 6 subcategories here. The first 2 is that all employees have their devices updated with the latest monitoring software. Inventories of all downloads should be kept and logged. The third and fourth are that all communications and exchange of information should be stored, including external data. The fifth one is that resources should be prioritized based on criticality. The sixth one is that cybersecurity roles should be established. Our program is average when compared to the rest because we do have a feedback mechanism, we do have cybersecurity roles, and we do have a protection of critical assets. However, we do need a system dedicated to logging external and internal data. Thank you for listening. Now I'll be passing it on to Christina to discuss data protection.
Thank you, Alan. Now I'm going to move on to talk about Protect. We believe that we are above average in this category. So data protection includes awareness, training, data security, information protection procedures, and maintenance. Our first rule is that every employee must complete and sign all online training videos within 2 weeks of the start date. All access also must be given or removed appropriately. All antivirus and security software should be updated every 2 months to prevent breaches. All system maintenance and access to records are logged. In terms of assessment, we would believe that we are above average because our insider threat program includes all the reporting requirements. We have clear employee training and awareness programs. We have task force responsibilities and roles, and employee reporting rewards program. However, we do need to improve on including a specific time frame for our system and security updates. Now I'll pass it on to Amber, who will talk about detection.
Thank you, Christina. Now I will be speaking on the detection portion of the NIST framework, and essentially what detection includes is continuous security monitoring, identifying anomalous activity to an established baseline level of activity, and also establishing detection processes in order to ensure that your company remains secure in the future. Now, our ideal insider threat program would have 3 components. First, we'd want to monitor information systems, assets, and personal activity at regular discrete intervals. That way we can prevent potential risks from occurring. Secondly, we'd want to establish a baseline level of activity. That way when something unusual happens, we'd be able to address the issue before an actual threat occurs in the future. And lastly, we'd want to make sure that detection processes and procedures are clearly outlined in compliance to regulations, make sure that they're enforced, and make sure that they're tested regularly for effectiveness. Now, in terms of our insider threat program specifically, we rated our program to be average in terms of detection. While we have established behavioral expectations and guidelines for reporting any suspicious activity or employee information, we could improve in terms of establishing baseline level activity and also determining exact intervals so we can conduct vulnerability tests. Now I'll pass it off to Jai to speak about responding.
Thank you, Amber. I will now be talking about the response section of the NIST framework. In this portion of the framework, the main objectives are to implement processes that allow for quick containment and mitigation of breaches, as well as create specific guidelines on communicating to stakeholders, both owners and employees. Through effective communication, implementation of controls becomes much more effective. After a breach has been contained, there must also be an audit of threat detection systems to test for their effectiveness, and a comprehensive report of the breach must be generated. Any inefficiencies or new risks discovered must be reported and fixed. In the current internal threat program we have created, our controls in line with the response section of the NIST framework are categorized as below average in effectiveness. Though we focus on behavioral and technological expectations of employees, as well as analysis and mitigation of new threats, we could improve by creating standardized procedures for sharing breach information and analyzing/quantifying new risks. And these considerations will go into an updated version of our insider threat program. I will now pass it off to Harley to speak about recovery.
Thank you. Next, we'd like to go over the recover portion of our ITP evaluation. As per the NIST framework, data recovery includes planning, improvements, and communication. Our insider threat program really only covers one of these aspects, and that's the communication. So our program has clearly defined threat task force with roles and responsibilities to include a public affairs officer and corporate communications to handle external and internal communication throughout the company. Some improvements that need to be made are a specific recovery plan with a timeline for implementation and a standard operating procedure on how to review and improve post-attack. So while our program does hit one of the three categories, we're going to grade this as a below average.
I'll now pass it on to Jenna and Rima, who will conclude our presentation.
Thank you, Harley. In conclusion, after reviewing your bank's insider threat program, we have determined that your ITP requires improvement in most of its areas. According to our observations, we found that there were 2 areas, respond and recover, that were below average, 2 areas, identify and detect, that were average. However, there was only 1 area, that is protect, that was above average.
Below average and average areas within your ITP lead to a high risk of insider threat incidents, leaving your bank vulnerable. Your ITP should be reviewed and improved by upper management along with the Insider Threat Task Force to improve insider threat mitigation processes and procedures.
Thank you.